Yet another record falls in Sassnitz off the German coast, and the green and gold back on top. Welcome to the wrap-up.
Make it count. It's all or nothing.
They're absolutely hammering.
The ROCKWOOL Germany Sail Grand Prix Sassnitz is heading into its final day.
Just anything can happen at any moment.
Day one belonged to the Southern Hemisphere teams, dominating European waters.
Sassnitz really turns it on for it.
But Germany gave the home crowd something to celebrate.
Eric Coast Guard in the high. Get it done.
The fleet pushed the speed record to new heights.
France go 107. Are you kidding me?
But if last season taught us anything, it's that in Sassnitz you can expect the unexpected.
Oh, France!
Now, the battle for the top four is heating up. Group racing will decide who falls short,
Big leap out of the water on board the Danish boat.
who fights on for glory.
He's gone from 6th to 3rd in the blink of an eye.
4 boats will make the final. Only one will leave Sassnitz on top. This is SailGP.
Welcome to the recap for event number 9 of the 2026 season of SailGP, the ROCKWOOL Germany Sail Grand Prix Sassnitz. I'm Todd Harris alongside former Emirates GBR athlete Hannah Diamond and Olympian Stevie Morrison. All right, guys, it was wet, it was wild, it was crazy. Hannah, what's your takeaways from Sassnitz?
Well, what an awesome weekend of racing. It was so close, and some of the battles to get to the final for me were just so exciting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's just how tight it all is. The margin for, I know we keep talking about that, but in some ways, even now that we've gone to the group racing, in some ways, the mistakes are punished more. So the closeness is there, and then just, I mean, driving around a mark in a sailing boat as quick as you'd be driving down the motorway in the UK in a car is something that a few years ago I would have just thought impossible. So that blew my mind, the speed they did on the first day.
All right, so let's take a look at the highlights. It was quite a show. Mother Nature delivered all kinds of weather, but when it came down to the 4-boat event final, Hannah, it was all on.
Yeah, it was, and we know that the Bonds Flying Roos, if they get ahead, they're pretty hard to beat. But North Star Canada did a nice job here of holding up the other 2 boats at the top end of the line, just allowing Bonds Flying Roos a bit of space. And when they're ahead, they just look so comfortable sailing in even these really tricky conditions. So that bearaway made it look easy. They took a left turn, and then it was North Star Canada that split around that bottom gate. And from there on in, it just was almost plain sailing for them. The battle was really a little bit further back in the fleet with quite a few lead changes. The breeze got a little bit patchier, which opened up some of the options. Spain didn't have such a great start, but did a really nice job at the top of this leg, just taking a bit of a better angle, staying in a bit more breeze to overtake the Kiwis. But that, of course, wasn't the end of the race for them. Bonds Flying Roos taking an incredible win here in Sassnitz.
And Stevie Morrison likes to say, how's your timing, Tom Slingsby? As soon as they crossed the line, Stevie, the wind just died out, and it was full on as the rest of the teams had to fight for the scraps. And while they were still out racing, the Bonds Flying Roos are sparkling water all over the place.
Yeah, I was sort of hoping we might have been able to get Tom Slingsby to come and join us to commentate the end of the race. He had enough time to do it, really. But yes, the wind very much sort of held out just long enough for us to get a good race. But as Hannah rightly said, I mean, just the accuracy the Bonds Flying Roos sailed the boat with once they got out in space was really good. And yeah, I mean, it's so nice to have a bit of breeze. Of course, SailGP is great with some breeze, but when it's shifty as well, it gives you the opportunity to have some overtakes, to play that tactical game. And I think we really saw the best of the sport.
When it was all said and done, it was the green and gold on top of the podium. They haven't won since New York City, and they caught up with Alex Holborn to explain how they got it done.
Congratulations, Tom. It must be good to be back on top.
It was an up and down day, and we had the highs and lows today, leading that first race by a long way and then letting it slip in when the wind died. And then we learnt the lessons, though, because when the wind died in the last one, we felt like we knew what to do a bit better.
It was some epic racing out there. Obviously, we broke some speed records this weekend. What makes Sassnitz such a good place to race in?
I think like this race course, being this close to the shore, the general breezes are offshore, which makes flat water, and it just always seems to be windy. Every time we've come here, it's been windy and breaking speed records and high quality racing. So, yeah, I can't wait for next year.
We've got 3 events in 5 weeks. How do you manage that load on the team?
Yeah, for sure. 3 events in 5 weeks is a lot for us in sailing terms because we've all got to debrief and figure out how to be better at next one. But I'm excited. I mean, especially to be going into it with a bit of momentum now. It feels like we broke our bad section there and we're back on top.
Amazing. Enjoy the celebrations. Thanks, Tom.
Well, Hannah and Stevie, that's a dangerous team to give momentum to, Hannah, because they are now starting to feel like, hey, we got this back to where we need to be.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. if they can get ahead at the start of some of these races, then they can be really hard to catch. We know they're not completely infallible. They've had a little bit of dip in form. I think they're really aware of that, but the gap at the top of the leaderboard for them must be filling them with confidence.
Yeah, I mean, they looked very good, and I mean, he said a bad section. I'm not entirely sure how bad it was. They just weren't perfect as they had been the rest of the time. But yeah, that's the standard they set themselves. Still think there's a couple of areas where they can look at Los Gallos and say Los Gallos are a bit better than us at this certain areas, but yeah, I mean, they've got a pretty full toolbox of things that they're very, very good at.
All right, we'll see how it all plays out. Stevie alluded to it a little earlier in the show. Sassnitz, or Sassnitz, as it's come to be called. What a show. We thought 103 was fast, Stevie. 107 plus for DS Team France.
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable. We're coming into Mark 1 and just, all three boats wound it up, but it was the French's ability to actually control that speed. You could see to the right of their Danish and Spanish had already flown too high, and so hard managing the foil through that manoeuvre. You're turning, so that's loading the foil, but then the boat's going faster, which is putting more lift on it. So you're trying to juggle that, but you see how the French just kept the boat a little bit lower in the water, so they didn't have that huge spike in speed leap and then crash down. And so it was not just the fact they got a top speed, because I think if ROCKWOOL or Spain had actually ended up with the top speed, that in some ways would have been a bit disappointing because they were out of control, as that crash down showed. But the fact the French controlled it and just kept the foil completely submerged, for Jason Saunders, I say completely submerged, it just popped out at the end there, didn't it? It was a bit tight. But yeah, Jason Saunders, the juggle he's doing there, unbelievable, and obviously at that speed, that is massive. So yeah, incredible.
Hannah, for someone who's been on these boats before, is there a way, or how do you train for those kind of speeds?
Well, it's tricky because these kind of moments come around not particularly often. And I think definitely from standing at the back of the boat, I think I've been 99 kilometres an hour, which definitely feels fast enough. And obviously, since the introduction of the T-foils, the top speed is just going up and up. But it is an incredible feeling on board. Everything just feels so loaded. And there's a big difference from kind of your 90, 95 kilometres an hour to these speeds above 100 kilometres. The boat just feels totally different, and it's really on a knife edge. So for the sailors on board, you are very aware in that moment that you have to be on your A game because there is no room for error at that speed.
Yeah, and I don't... You say, well, how do you train for it? I mean, you don't train for it. I just think, to Hannah's point, they're not doing anything different than they'd be doing at 90, 95. The consequence for a marginal mistake is total. So just got to do it. Just do your job. You've got to do it right. But it's obviously a lot easier to say that sat here.
Well, we're in the thick of the European leg of Season 6 here in SailGP, so let's take a look at the standings right now. Here it is after Sassnitz. It is the Bons Flying Rouge at 76 points, so they pick up 2 points on Los Gallos. Their lead now 14 points. Artemis, Stevie, and you made a good point of this. They are now securely in 3rd place, with Emirates GBR moving into 4th ahead of the US SailGP team on the tiebreak.
When you talk about momentum, USA and Emirates GBR, zero momentum right now. I mean, they're in a sort of full Control-Alt-Delete reset mode, I'd say, but if they're not, they should be, because they've got to get things happening. Those two teams were looking pretty solid. Oh yeah, Emirates, of course they'll be in the final. Well, they're still not right in Emirates GBR, and the US team, I mean, I don't see them doing an awful lot wrong, but they're making a fair few little errors that are costing them an awful lot. And yeah, Artemis, I had that sort of feel about them, that they'd be sort of a bit under the radar, no major mistakes, yet to see any major greatness either. But I'm sure if we interviewed Nathan and the team, they'd say we've only got to win that last race in Abu Dhabi.
Hannah, Stevie made a good point to me earlier off camera, and he was talking about Artemis being in the mix. And I thought, what are you talking about? Artemis is 3rd place. But he makes a good point, because at the end of the season, we go to the Middle East where the winds are lighter. Who would you rather have at the wheel other than the Wind Whisperer?
Yeah, for sure. And I think the interesting thing for me with them is that they're yet to win an event, but they are starting to be in more and more finals. Obviously, they missed out here in Sassnitz, but I think their mindset will now need to be, okay, if we think we're likely to make the grand final, how do we make sure that we give ourselves the best chance of winning that final? So it's not about how do we just make each final each time. If you don't make the final, you've got to make sure that you're 4th or 5th, so you're not having any of those results that are further down the board. But this is the point of the season where things get really interesting, because some of those points might be spreading out, but we see some of these teams, they're picking up no points for multiple events.
Yeah.
And with so many points on offer at each one of those, the gap could be gone in seconds.
Yeah, I think when we talk to all the sailors after races, whether they win or come in second or third, it all comes down to getting a good start and keeping it simple. And Hannah, you're going to take a deep dive into this. It's all about that good start, but you got to put yourself in the right position from the get-go.
Yeah, and absolutely easier said than done. For Bons Flying Rouge this weekend, the races that they won were just so impressive on the start. What I think they do differently to a lot of other people, we saw it from a couple of other teams. If they can lead at Mark 1, they're so hard to overtake, but they're just really able to put themselves in a position where they give themselves an opportunity for a gap to open up in front of them. They're not scared to start a little bit behind the fleet, really wind up the speed early, get that Rolex sprint leader at Mark 1 and then take the win. So every one of these venues, we can see the start from the final, where the visibility really came in, really tricky to sail, but they've obviously got their markers, their time and distance, and their references really well. So in different conditions, they're able to pull off the same start and do really well from there.
Stevie, in honor of talking about great starts, you wore the right T-shirt today because it's all about how's your timing, and the Bons Flying Rouge, when they're on the money, hard to beat, like Hannah said.
Yeah, and the how's your timing quote is often about when that line's about to turn white, and that start. I think the interesting bit is at like a minute to the gun, when they're coming the opposite way at the start line, if you have a really clear picture of what your timings are at that point, then when you intersect with the other teams, you know, do I jump them or do I go past and I can attack? And like in the final today, North Star were a little early, Artemis were a little early, so Slingsby would have known on his timings, actually, I've got a chance at the bottom of the line here. And I think that's where, you know, Hannah's spot on with understanding all of those, the timing in it. But I think the interesting bit is often about between a minute and 45 seconds when the manoeuvre comes in to turn back to the line. That's quite pivotal, and I think that's where Slingsby's got a very clear picture of what he wants to do.
I would love to know the genesis behind how's your timing. Did that just come to you in a dream, or did you just watch it one day and it just like...
I didn't even know I said it, to be perfectly honest, but now it seems
now
like
it's on merch everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
All right, so we turn the page from Sassnitz and now we look at Valencia. Once again, a first-time stop for SailGP. We know that it's going to be great in Spain because it's always great in Spain. Hannah, what do you know about Valencia and what do you expect?
Well, there's a lot of sailing which happens around that kind of region, but I think a new venue for the teams. We see some teams adapt to that better than others. I don't think there's anyone who'd probably say that they felt super comfortable knowing that venue already, which is really interesting. And I think it's getting to the point of the season where some of the teams who are fighting for that spot in the grand final, they cannot afford to have a bad event. So doing the research before we go, making sure that they've picked up all the lessons from this weekend and from events in the past, having a really good idea of what they need to do, and then executing on the day.
And Stevie, I think it goes, and it's worth noting that teams that are going to their home event or home waters don't always turn that into wins. I mean, we've seen it throughout the season. I don't know if anyone's won their home event, but Los Gallos now has to defend home waters. How do you think they fare in Valencia?
Yeah, well, I think they fared well. I mean, I think they're really still right on form. You know, they're still making finals. Obviously, yeah, the Aussies have got that little bit about them. I think, you know, it's a sea course again. You got the space. I think we'll be expecting / hoping for a sea breeze to come in. You know, and I think it'll be in the probably not as windy as this weekend, but still I think quite solid breeze. But I think the difference there is we're right near the seawall. It's going to be quite a confused sea state. And I think that's going to make it really hard to sail the boats as accurately. So you can have the space to be fast, you have to be accurate with your manoeuvres, but I think it could be quite a bumpy road, whereas this weekend it's been very unstable wind. I think it'll be a steady wind, but really unstable water. So a different skill set than we've had here.
Amazingly, we are already going to be at event 10. It seems like we were just in Perth a short time ago, and now we're at event 10. So 2 more events in Europe, and then it's on to the Middle East. So once again, the ROCKWOOL Germany Sail Grand Prix Sassnitz goes the way of the Bons Flying Rouge. They take the victory, and now they set course for Valencia, Spain. On behalf of Stevie Morrison, Hannah Diamond, I'm Todd Harris. We'll see you the first weekend in September for SailGP as we approach Spain.
For the first time, SailGP comes to Valencia, Spain.
Picture, vamos, todo lo que tengas.
Local favorites Los Gallos will take to the water as the proud home team led by Olympic champions Diego Motin and Florian Triddle. Prepare for an exhilarating fiesta-filled weekend of racing as SailGP makes its debut in this incredible city.